Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis, updated commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinions as we go through it together. And if you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com, where I dive deeper into all of these sectors and topics, looking for potential investment opportunities and sharing that with the people in the community. We do have a coupon code Black Friday that is still active if you'd like to join up. 50% off the first month only, and a larger discount on the yearly membership that we offer there. Let's dive in. Let's take a look, see what's going on with the dollar. So the DXY is stronger today. We did see yields on the short end of the curve moving on up today, and on the long end, basically flat. So is this where we get support and break higher, which is right at that support resistance area, or do we roll back over? I kind of view this as a falling wedge right at support, and we'll see if this can hold this support level. A lot of it is going to deal with the direction that interest rates go. When we look at interest rates, the 2-year, it's been slowly falling down. If that continues, we should see the dollar weaken. The 10-year is also in a downtrend, and if that continues in that downtrend, we should see the dollar weaken. And then the 30-year is also again in a downtrend, and if that continues to weaken, we should see the dollar weaken with it. So we've got a downtrend with yields across the board, and potentially the dollar could continue to weaken. But again, that is a relative measure, and it also depends on the monetary backings of the other currencies that the dollar is being measured against. TYX TNX ratio, this is a ratio I follow. It is inverting. That means that the 10-year went up more than the 30-year. And when it inverts, inverting downward, that is when you don't get a huge tailwind for gold. When it uninverts and comes back up the way that I've got it, then gold goes up with it. TLT bond prices are down a little bit, right on support resistance, and we still have to get through all of this resistance that is ahead of us. If we back out a little bit, there's that resistance right there coming across, and the resistance and support of all that stuff back there. We've got the 2 and 10, the yield curve inverted today. And we've been inverting for the past, I don't know, 3-4 trading sessions. If a huge, this is what I see usually. If a recession is coming, usually what we see is a dive bomb of this downward. That very well could come, and that's what we're watching. This was the COVID crash where we kind of rolled over and then took a dive bomb. We also have the dive bomb of 2007. It started dive bombing before 2008. And then we had the dive bomb in 2000 for the 2001 recession. What that is indicating is that they are lowering interest rates. The 2-year generally moves more than the 10-year, and people are seeking safety. They position in the bond market, causing yields to drop. Gold pulling back still, down about $20 an ounce. We've got this trend line I put in there. I could probably tighten it up just a teeny bit here, so it's something like this. We've broken to the downside with pretty good selling pressure here. We also have this big bearish engulfing there, and that still looks like it could potentially head lower or move sideways for a period of time. Silver also selling off a little bit. That looks a little bit better. We've got support through here, kind of coming through this general area. We do have some stronger selling pressure through here. You can see all those big red candlesticks, smaller green candlesticks, and it's trying to find a base here. We'll see if it can find it and start working its way on up. But right now, there's still some selling pressure in silver. Platinum working its way sideways. We've been squeezing into this corner for a very long time. Squeeze, 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 squeeze into that corner, and we'll see which direction it breaks. We're on the cost curve for the most part. Production has dialed back from the main South African producers, and I do think this will eventually work its way on up. There's deficits in platinum. Palladium's up a little bit, and we're still stuck between resistance and support. That does look like we could potentially head lower in the short term. It is a inverted flag pattern, right? And it'll probably end up right where the support is. GDX down 2.2, GDXJ is down 1.72, and SILJ is down 2%. And these don't look very strong. I see no reversal candlesticks. I see good downside momentum, and there's just nothing there to I'll say, stage an effort to go higher. So we're continuing to sell off, and that's kind of where my mind is at this time for all of the ETFs there. And we've broken out of uptrends. XAU to gold ratio, we're at a very low level. We're still above that big long-term downtrend trend line where gold and silver mining companies broke out against gold. Maybe we come back a little bit further, redo a little retest back here before heading on up. And the reason I think we head on up is because of the situation of debt and money creation and all of that. So we're at a really low opportunity here. It's a good opportunity. We are very low with a huge runway for this to work its way on up. Crude oil up just a little bit today. Some people think that this is a bearish setup, and I can't say that it's a bullish setup, but I wouldn't say it's completely bearish. But if we do pop out of here, then yeah, it would start to look a lot more bearish. So this was the big inflationary push with all the money printing. We are consolidating in this here. And some people think that this is some sort of shoulder, head, shoulder. I don't know if I agree with that. But I think this here is this pattern here. And we've broken out of the consolidation. So longer term, I'm bullish. Shorter term, big fat question mark on what direction we're going to go here. Right now, we've got some downside momentum. It's not a huge amount of momentum. If the selling pressure was here, usually you get big explosive moves. And we're kind of just hanging out above support. We've got a bullish engulfing here and a bearish engulfing here. And the buyers and sellers are duking it out against each other. ETF gas up 1.35, still looks good, momentum higher. Natural gas in America down about 4.8%, and we are above that support level. It is possible that we do get let's go to the dailies, a return move back and a retest. That retest would occur at 2.81. Boy, XOP, yeah, you know me, getting a little bit of selling pressure today, but we're at support. The support of this trend line coming up and the big boy trend line going across. They act as resistance and support depending on what side you're on. We've gone through all of this to break out, and now we're doing a retest right back to support. So it looks good. We need oil to move on higher, I think, for this to work its way on up. Otherwise, it's weird that we've got XOP and XLE and all these other ones breaking through all this resistance. It doesn't break through resistance for no reason. That's what I'll say. If we're breaking through resistance, I'm on the bullish camp. I don't look at charts and try to only look at the pattern on one chart. I try to look at everything and come up with a possibility or probability. Here's XLE. These are larger oil companies, and they're sitting all the way up here on top of support. We went through all that resistance, and we did it for no reason to just peak out and roll over. I don't know if I buy that. OIH is also holding on pretty strong. We're up against some resistance. I can't say that this chart is super bullish because we have kind of come up here and broken down out of this channel that's been working on up. So you can look at this from two perspectives. This could be a double bottom where it works its way on up because we don't have a ton of selling pressure here. But on the other hand, why the heck are we at the bottom end of this channel that we've broken out to the downside? Maybe it has something to do with elections. I don't know, where it pushed us lower. But we'll watch it together and see which direction this thing goes. Longer term, oil service, all these things are going to do incredible over the 2020s. Newcastle coal futures selling off a little bit, down 2%. We are still above the big base that we created, and we are still below this resistance line that we haven't broken through yet. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust selling off a little bit, down 1.73%. The momentum is still down. It's not a ton of momentum because we do have some buying pressure that occurred towards the end of the day. And this is an inverse or inverted flag pattern where we could head a little bit lower. The physical uranium futures pricing right at support. A little bit of a pullback there. In the short term, this is a weird setup. We come in a nice, beautiful setup, break to the upside, and then kind of just go sideways. I don't know what's going on, but a lot of these commodities are just kind of, it's almost like they're being manipulated lower to some degree. I don't know if that's true, but a lot of them, they have these beautiful setups, big, coming in, nice big setup, break to the upside, and then it just kind of fails. And that is all around the election time, which just so happens. And it's a lot of the energy stuff that it's happening to. But maybe there's something bigger that I'm missing here. URA back to support. We got support right underneath us. Still looks good to continue sideways or higher. URNM down a little bit. A little bit of a bearish engulfing candlestick. Maybe we see a little bit of a downside move. But for the most part, it's still bullish because we're coming from a low end here upward. We've had our pullback and we continue to kind of flag on out. So it's a bullish formation with a bearish candlestick on it right this second. So kind of a weird setup. Then we've got URNJ doing the same thing. It's a bullish setup from this perspective, but we did get a bearish candlestick today where maybe we could pull back a little bit. Tough to say. We've got two competing forces on different time frames. Copper moving sideways above support. We'll see if that holds. Looks okay at the current time. We've got COPX down just a teeny bit, and that's also kind of like in a flaggish pattern. Looks good to go higher. Iron ore up a teeny bit. It's been working its way on up the past few trading sessions, and I still think this looks good to work its way on up. We've got aluminum right at resistance still. It still hasn't broken out. And when it does break, I'm sure it will have a big run. It'll just release from all this resistance. Nickel up 0.63%, looking like it's trying to do another little double bottom on a bottom. So let me do this. Get this out of the way. Move this over. It's this double bottom there, and this creates a second bottom on this bigger pattern. That actually doesn't look too bad. We've seen this pattern all over the place. We just saw it in energy service, and energy service was up here trying to break that line up there. Moving sideways, and still looks good to go higher. We've got support, fallen wedge, breakout. There's your kind of double bottom with resistance coming there. So we'll see if we can move our way on up. We've got emerging markets looking like a little bit more bearish setup here. We've been moving sideways. We did enter this from the top side down, and we could see further downside in the short term, especially if the dollar strengthens. KRE, now these are a little bit more sensitive to interest rates here, and interest rates were mixed today with a stronger dollar. So just a small pullback on this. Still looks good to go higher. We have small selling pressure. Think of it as a flag pattern there. We've got TAN up 1.74, and this does look good to try to work its way on up. I don't know if any of the companies make any money in this ETF, but money's flowing into it. Lithium's also working its way on up. This looks pretty good, up about 1%. It's trying to break through this downtrend, and we're getting real close to releasing from the downtrend. And that is just one big kind of flaggish pattern there. Looks pretty good. REMX doing the same thing. Very similar, just been trading sideways in a channel, but we entered the channel and it's broken out of its downtrend. That looks good. Baltic Dry Index getting some selling pressure, down about 4.5%. We're seeing a lot of selling pressure in shipping in general, tankers and dry bulk. XHB probably doesn't like a little bit higher yields there or the dollar, but this is still well poised to work its way on up, sitting on top of support. And there's your double bottom there. Russell still looks good, moving on up with a sideways flag pattern. So that still looks excellent to work its way on up. The S&P 500 is continuing higher, despite the 300 rising wedges that we've got before it. And then NASDAQ continues higher too, up about 1%. Probably awaiting more liquidity. But yeah, we've got all these rising wedges going on here. SMCI getting some short squeeze going on, up 28% in a day. But again, I wouldn't touch it. When you start to see problems with people quitting and auditors and all that stuff, I tend to not touch that. NVIDIA, man, 0.27. We've got this kind of wedge deal going on here, and pretty good selling pressure. Not much of a bounce here. Could be an inverted flag pattern ready to break lower. But most of those calls have not been correct, depending on what you're looking at. So a lot of these have really been just continuing higher, despite what the technicals say. BTC down 2 point something percent. That does look like a little more bearish formation there. We contracted in the opening and closing prices of all these candlesticks into a bearish engulfing. This could head lower and potentially top. We'll see if there's any follow through. Ethereum also selling off, but this one just recently broke to the upside and looks good on the longer term to continue higher. So maybe Bitcoin in the short term is just consolidating. Maybe we consolidate like this a little bit more sideways or something and then break. But we're consolidating there at this time. MicroStrategy down 1.85%. This also could be a consolidation too. So we usually get, this is a big reversal candlestick. If you don't get a ton of follow through, you could get some sort of consolidation that does something like that. So maybe that's it. We'll have to continue to watch it and see if that plays out that way. And then the VIX continues to work its way on down as the S&P continues its way on up. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website. Black Fridays, that coupon code, it's one word. And that's all I've got for you guys. So we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.